Jack, congratulations on such a fantastic series it's been so far. Are you surprised by the fan reaction for WandaVision?
I shouldn't have been. I mean, I should have known that Marvel fans would show up with like their full brains and enthusiasm and like heart, and I should have known. I think that I felt like on this show that we were doing something that was kind of so weird and crazy that wasn't always entirely sure that we would be embraced in a big way. And so yeah, in that way, the fan reaction has been really surprising and one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in the entertainment industry for sure.
You have such a fun way to tell stories. We saw two or three episodes where it really just looked like a sitcom. One of my questions for you is, kind of like a chef that seasons their dish properly. How do you know how much to clues to leave in for Marvel fans? Because they're fine-tuned combing every episode for clues for what the bigger picture is.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm learning is like, however many I put in, they're gonna pour over it and find more and more and more. I think that Kevin Feige and my producer Mary Lavanos, they really have their eye very keenly on those things. My focus was more about what is the appropriate pacing, how long do we have to stay in a sitcom mode in order to then jump out of it in a way that really rattles the viewer. So for me it was much more about like tempo and kind of what you're preparing the audience for. So yeah, so I didn't really come at it from an Easter egg perspective. I came at it from the idea of let's be as calculated as possible as to when we see the edges of this sitcom world kind of peel up.
We know you've worked on several Marvel films already. What are the differences, major differences in writing for a television show for Marvel than the movies?
Well, the biggest difference was I had a room full of writers working on the TV series. I had never worked like that before. I had only ever worked on my own in features for my whole career. So that was the primary difference. I was really excited at the opportunity to break story into episodes. I had a really strong idea of how to make each episode engaging and to have really exciting cliffhangers, at the end of each episode. But I hired a room full of people who, had so much more experience than I do in television. I mean, Mackenzie Dorr was on The Mindy Project. Bobak Esparjani was on Manifest. Like these are the influences and the expertise that I needed in the room in order to execute on these episodes.
What kind of coordination do you have between you and maybe some of the other shows and movies that are going on in the MCU?
Yeah. I mean, so that sort of like umbrella of what is happening, all the sort of like tendrils of the web of shows and movies. I mean, that's Kevin Feige's brain and all of the incredible producers at Marvel. And they're really responsible for the coordination. I am friendly with some of the other head writers, and I'm, lucky enough to call some of those people my friends and to communicate with them, socially and that kind of thing, and to hear a little bit about what's going on. But in terms of the creative content, we communicate and coordinate as much as is required, and as much as Marvel thinks is necessary for the stories to line up. I mean, the best part about it for me is like I often get to see things before the rest of the world sees them, because it's part of my job, really, but really because I just want to see it.
In writing a Marvel story in the MCU, we have this rich amount of characters that you can pull from. What are some restrictions that you had? Were there characters that you wanted to use? How do you go about that to add characters to your story?
Again, that's sort of a Marvel purview thing. They had some ideas it sort of comes down to like the types of characters that we need for the story, and then who are some of the characters either who already exist in the MCU or who are characters from the comics that would be appropriate. And it's a lot of like early days conversations in the development. And for this one, Jimmy and Darcy were suggestions that I jumped on because I'm such a fan of both the characters and of those two actors. And then Monica Rambeau was more of a discovery later on. We knew that that we needed a certain kind of character to support the larger story. And then when we landed on Monica, it was really exciting. We had really high hopes, and then in casting Teyonah, the high hopes were realized.
So in the latest episode, the curtain really has been opened as far as what has been going on in the series. How important are going to be some of these other characters, like you mentioned, Monica, Darcy, Herb, going forward in the next few episodes?
I mean, everybody on WandaVision is important and serves a purpose, is what I would say. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of story left. There are a lot of answers that we need to get to. And now that we have, investigating characters, we'll get to those answers more quickly.
As we've gone through the last few episodes, it's kind of unraveled that we're really exploring Wanda's trauma of loss. Can you talk a little bit about how her character has developed and how, maybe whatever you can share about what we're going to be seeing, kind of like we've already seen in the trailer?
Well, I think that, anyone who's seen Wanda in the MCU knows that she has had a very hard life and that she has suffered an immense amount of loss. And that is, a huge part of her character. With this show, it was always my agenda to see Wanda with the widest lens, to see the fullness of her as a woman, and now as a wife and as a mother. And so we will be seeing the full spectrum of Wanda Maximoff in this show.
What can we expect from Vision? Because it's becoming apparent that he's starting to realize that not everything is what it seems.
Yeah, I love questions about Vision. The focus is so often on Wanda, but we worked very hard to give Vision and to give Paul a really comprehensive arc in this show. If you're gifted an actor like Paul Bettany, you better show up with some good material. So I'm excited for fans to see what happens with Vision on the show.
Jac, again, congratulations on the show, and thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. Such a fan of the show. My daughter also wanted me to let you know that she loves it as well.
Oh my gosh, tell your daughter I'm so glad she's watching. Yeah. I love hearing it. Thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Bye.